Trying to make sure you hear the guitar. This song I wrote, like I said, around 2010. It progressed over the years as I was working out the song, because I lived in downtown East Side, Vancouver, since 1983. So I really saw the beginning of the missing women issues back in the 90s when Robert Pickton was doing his dastardous deeds, and there was complicity all the way around. So this is called Walking with Sweet Mary, and it's about our missing women. I know families and friends that have lost their sisters, and I've known brothers that have lost their lives up here in Canada, Edmonton, because of the systemic issues affecting, if I could coin a Canada Council phrase, Canada's first people. I didn't know we were their first people. We were Canada's people, the Queen's people. I hear the breath of our missing women along the highways and byways. Hear the breath of our missing women in the back alleys of our city. And where do they go? We're talking about the most marginalized women of the world, and they're dying and trying to etch out their existence. The red man, yellow man, black man, the white man, and they drove around looking at our missing women. Mother Earth drowned. Love our missing women. Did you hear them in the wind? The DNA's blowing in the wind. The DNA's blowing in the wind. The white man, black man drive around. Mother Earth brown. So now that they want an inquiry for those missing women. So they want an inquiry for those missing women. Great Spirit looks down on us, looks at the water and the sea and the food. I was dancing, but don't forget the missing women. Don't forget the missing women. DNA blowing in the wind. DNA blowing in the wind. As you're walking by, don't forget our missing women. Our missing brothers and sisters, Rideau Island, hi. So you can find that song on the net, or there's a live version, a little extended version, and there's the song that actually won the award as Best Folk Ballad 2016. And what is nice about that is they announced the award on the day of the Missing Women's March across Canada.
Anyone can come up and feel free to come and share now, if you choose. This is your time to share something and talk. And don't hold back, because this is part of the process, the healing process. We gather here today to be with one another and to remember our loved ones.
Okay. And here we have Maggie coming up. She's going to come say a few words, I'm hoping.
Her body was covered up with some leaves and some bush. Right beside her body was a doe, a baby doe. The mother of the doe was standing inside the bush keeping an eye on her baby. As the baby kept an eye on Cherish. And when the searchers came, the doe got up and walked away with the mother. She couldn't get up.
Let's change this. Bernadette has the Critical Society.
And then my nephew, Amigo, that was his nickname. I never ever called him Victor. He said, the police said, and the coroner said, we don't want you to have to identify the body. So we'll just identify her from her picture. And Amigo said, no, I've got to see her with my own eyes to believe that she's dead. Some of your things and negligence and covering up that has been done.
Red dress and
If I was
we are
to
doing this event today to remember and honor
been in
this
649, I'd hire them a whole bunch of private
that
investigators
many
to
families
actually
have been
document
affected by right
the
across the
injustice
nation, right across Canada.
of what
We're
those,
here to bring awareness
some of the officers
to
have done
remember
for some of the
that
families. We
they
had
were
to
just
hand
not
the God
girls or just
after that
women,
cop
but
made
they
a
were human
mistake.
beings.
They
They were
sent us
somebody's
a
sister,
lawyer,
somebody's daughter, somebody's auntie, or somebody's
forensic
mother. And so we're here to acknowledge
lawyer
them today and to come
to do the
together
questioning so that that man will be put in jail.
continue to bring that awareness and let people know that this is a very serious
I
problem in
think while
Canada,
these
and we
events,
need to continue
people
on.
talk,
We need
people
to unite
smudge,
as one
and thank
and
God
become
that
strong
there's these medicines.
again as a nation
It's important
and bring
also
our loved ones back
for
home,
people
because
to
there are
talk
many
about
families
how do
that
we heal?
haven't
Where
not
do we
seen their
heal? Who helps us
loved
heal?
ones in years and that are still missing. And so we gathered here today to remember that, to
When my little
acknowledge that.
grandson Gussie hugs me,
It's an issue that has been going on in
I
this
feel
country
like
for a very
I'm
long time. It's a black stain
I'm
in
more
the image of this country. You still
None of
need
that
to
fuss anymore.
organize events to raise awareness
I
about
put on
what's
this earth
going
to
on.
love
From
and to
your
be
point of
loved
view, what does it tell
and
about
have a
this
sense of
country?
belonging. So today, the people
Well,
that
what
are
it
here,
says about this country, that
thank you
it's a real shame. It's a real
for
shame that
helping me
in
know
Canada in this day and
that
age
we all
that
belong together.
Indigenous
And
people
we
are
will
marginalized
continue to move
population,
through life, and
and
we
that
will
our
get stronger.
cries for help continue to fall on deaf ears in the systems, the child welfare system, the police system, and those systems that are supposed to protect us. So today we bring that awareness and that we are not going away. We will continue on with this fight because we are resilient people. And we've gathered here today to show that you know, you can knock us down, but you cannot knock us out. We are here to fight, to continue to be the voice for those that are lost out there somewhere, and to let people know that we are all in this together, and everybody is responsible to stop the violence in this country.
This particular park happens to be the scene of 2 of our missing and murdered stolen brothers and sisters. Charmaine Dessa was murdered in this, well, we don't know if it was this park, but this was the last place that she was seen, and then a few months later her body was found. Now, she had stopped at this park for a brief moment, she thought. She had her van running with her friends waiting inside the van for her as she stopped here to go to the bathroom just in the back here. She told her friends, "I'll be right back." She never returned. A couple months later, they found her body, brutalized, murdered, and still her murderer is walking to this day. 14% represent the Indigenous women that are murdered and missing in Canada alone. So out of all women in Canada, 14% are missing and murdered Indigenous. And we're here to say it has got to stop. We have got to pull together, stay together as community, and take care of one another. We don't want to see any more stolen and murdered Indigenous. Enough is enough. And as well, we had another young lady who was murdered here in the back of the park by her boyfriend, and they knew who she was. But the violence has got to stop in our people. We've got to start loving one another and realizing that we are here to stay. We walk with 3,000 ancestors behind us on a daily basis. This is our Indigenous land. We have to take care of one another. Cindy, you're good at talking. Come say a few words. You said a few words the other time. Come on. So this isn't her first time to speak, so. And I encourage any of you young little youth to come up and speak as well. Tell us what's on your hearts. Thank you.
Hi, I'm one of the photographers for the Red Dress Project. I started taking pictures of the red dress probably about 3 years ago. It started in Winnipeg, placing red dress everywhere across Canada to represent at that time it was 11,083 Aboriginal women. I'm sure it has gone up substantially. Those are the known cases. Obviously there are unknown cases. I think we need to, as Aboriginals, stick together to protect our children. We know there needs to be a system overhaul of the child welfare system to the justice system with the Idle No More. Here in Edmonton, there needs to be more community-based approach to making women stronger, in turn making our children stronger. I don't know where that goes. I'm not a politician. But if you can, write your letters, protest, contact your MLA, contact executive directors, speak up, right? If you think you are treated unfairly, you should speak up, because these little kids that are walking around will be our next generation, so we need to make sure that our children are protected. Without that, there's still going to be many people missing. Here in Edmonton alone, we know that the RCMP, time and time again, because they don't value the Indigenous people, in turn they tend to, okay, she was drunk, or, she's homeless. They tend to put a label on us that is unfair, where now we have to go out on ourselves to do our own investigation, and it's so unfair. I think we need to start speaking up.
Hello everybody, Ansei, Miigweech Judith. I'm just gonna. Hello everybody, I just wanted to share a little bit about what I understand of murdered and missing Indigenous women, men and boys. I first attended a rally and you know, I don't know the exact date it was, but it was a murdered and missing Indigenous woman's walk. And when I attended this this walk, I didn't really know that this issue affected me until I heard all these different people speak about the loss of loved ones. You know, the women in their lives, the men. I myself, I grew up within Indigenous communities, and you know, we lost people all the time. You know, I lost like many cousins, like many relatives to the streets, and I knew it had everything to do with poverty, but it also had to do with addiction, vulnerability. There was a time I even spent a year in Saddle Lake, and I remember that 12 people used to die a month, you know, on that reserve, and for all different kinds of reasons, and reasons that I didn't believe that were good enough. When I first attended the rally, I heard a chief talk about, he said we need to return to our traditional values. We need to return to the ways and the things that the ancestors left us. You know, my mother, her sister was murdered a long time ago, and she was actually murdered, and it's a weird story because my mother told it to me, and my mother's sister had a daughter, and her daughter had a jealous boyfriend, and in the middle of the night, my mom's sister woke up in the night and told her daughter to go sleep in her bed. And that night, the boyfriend came through the window and murdered my auntie, and he stabbed her 56 times, you know, and you know, like my uncles too, you know, I've lost them to all kinds of different kinds of ways when it comes to loss. But the biggest thing that I'm learning in this walk is that we need to educate people. We need to educate everyone. You know, in the last 15 years, there's been an influx of different nations coming here to Edmonton. They say that there's about 147 different cultures within Edmonton alone. And I know that as Cree people, we are people of the medicine wheel. And we teach all nations, all people. And one of the things that we have in common is that we all want to live in healthy and safe communities. We want our children to grow up in healthy and safe communities, free of discrimination, free of racism. You know, and when we pray as Native people, we say all of my relations. That's because all of creation is related. You know, and we say the hurt of one is the hurt of all, and the honor of one and is the honor of all. Whether we realize it or not, if one of us is suffering, we're all suffering, even when it comes to poverty. You know, like, people talk lots about poverty. We know that Indigenous people make up most of that population when it comes to homelessness and poverty. I always ask that question, how come we're homeless in our own homeland? We weren't homeless before. You know, and one of the things I'd like to say is that returning to our traditional values, you know, love, respect, kindness, honesty, you know, all of these values, we need to teach it to our children so our children know who we are. I had a kid ask me one day, he asked me if he could be a warrior, because we were drumming and singing together, smudging, and he was getting a taste of the culture. And you know what? When he asked me that question, I said, that's a really good question. You know, but what is a warrior? A warrior is somebody who takes care of the elderly, he takes care of the defenseless, he takes care of the ones who can't provide for themselves, and above all, the children, the future of humanity. So you know what? When I think about what a warrior truly is, you can definitely be a warrior. We could have warriors amongst all people, all nations. You know, and the generation that's born now, our ancestors talked about 7 generations, that it would take 7 generations for the Indigenous people to heal from the devastating effects of European migration. And you know what the reality is that these children that are born now are that 7th generation. They're the ones that are going to change things. And you know what? I believe that, like, being Indigenous, you know what? Our children, they don't have to go and ask anybody to be Indigenous. Guess what? They're born with that spirit. They have a gift. It's our responsibility as the older generation to nurture that gift within them. And the only way to do it is with love and kindness, those teachings that our ancestors have left us. But you know what? Those teachings are universal. They're not just for us, they're for all people. And it's our responsibility to share that beauty within our culture. You know, I hear a lot about lateral violence. And I'll tell you one thing, I never knew what lateral violence was, like that there was actually a word for that until I was 29 years old. And you know what? When I learned what lateral violence, like, there's a word for that. I grew up with it. I grew up with my mom and my dad, my brothers and my sisters, mistreating each other, never being happy for each other when they succeeded. You know what I mean? Like, and you know what? There's a word for that. It's big time in nursing. They say lateral violence exists within nursing and within healthcare, but it's big time and it plagues our Indigenous communities. And you know what it does? It prevents positive change from happening. You know what? Returning to our traditional values, we need to love and respect one another. You know what? We don't always agree with each other, but we still partake in ceremonies. We work together. That's what makes the round dance so powerful. That's what makes the powwow so powerful, is that all those people, they might not get along, they might not agree with each other, they might talk bad about each other on Facebook, but in reality and truth, guess what? They're all partaking in that ceremony together. It's true community, and there's power in those ceremonies. And you know what? I always hear people saying, oh, this guy doesn't do that right, or he doesn't do that the way you're supposed to do that. You know what? We have 5 different reserves surrounding Edmonton, and they all do things differently. You have to try and find positive things that make you happy, things that make you feel full, you know, things that give you life, you know, because for too long, you know, I grew up seeing our people suffering, you know, even within the inner city, within the homeless community, many of our people are still suffering. And you know, our elders, they always teach us, for the people that are in the inner city, to treat them with kindness, to treat them with love, because always treat them with respect, because they are the ones that are paying the full price for what has been done to our people through Indian residential schools. And you know what? Chiefs like Sitting Bull, like Big Bear, like Poundmaker, they weren't racist. You know what? They weren't anti, you know, nations. They were anti-government. They didn't like what the government was doing to the Indigenous people. And you know what? When they signed those treaties, they were looking ahead into the future to where we're all sitting right now, hoping for a better life, looking for a better life for our people. It's up to us. We can't ask the government to make things right for us anymore. We have to do it ourselves. And you know what? It doesn't take money to be kind. It doesn't take money to be honest. It doesn't take money to bring change within the community. You know what? One person can do a whole lot of good. There's a lot of people within our communities that do work every day to make people's lives better. And guess what? They go unnoticed. They go unrecognized. You know what? When we pray, we need to recognize those people. You know, even the people that came before, like the Francis Bad Eagles, you know, these elders before that worked within the community. You know, we need to remember what our ancestors had taught us. And you know what? I'm just happy and I'm honored to be here with all of you today to honor all of these murdered and missing Indigenous women, men and boys. And at the same time, I thank you for all all of you coming out here and being brave and, honoring these ladies and these men. And I'll say, hi, nas kumtanao, no tawinan, nas kamal, semantu, hi.
And basically, I'm going to be going down on Highway 16, all the way down to Prince Rupert. And I'm going to be bringing about 50 to 60 people along my journey back across Canada. And hopefully when I'm all done, I should have about 150 to 200 people walking along Highway 16. And I thank you all, and have a good day, and we praise you all. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much for sharing that. That is just amazing work that you're doing and bringing the awareness. We need our men to stand up and support our women and nurture our women just as much as we need to support our men and nurture them as well, because they need our healing energy as well on their journeys.
Okay, I think you got something now, okay? This is called Watching People Different Places. I wrote this when you meet people in life, different cultures, this time of this age of terror or age of insecurity. It's called Watching People Different Places. Yes. Okay, this is my closing song. It's called Missing Women. Watching people different places. She was working, sharing time, painting pictures, different races, looking for like-minded people in faraway places, by the steeple of Ground Zero. Everybody's running from Nero, faraway places. Terrified minds in different places. Tears from different races. Different faces, she painted her. Different faces, he painted him in faraway places. Crystal circles of ancient places, sharing Jesus from ancestral races, giving love in all the sad torn places. How you doing, dear sister? Giving love in all the sad torn places. He said, she said, coming from sacred places. Hey, faces like missing women, getting love from like-minded faces, in all the sad torn places. Painted she, sad torn places painted he. Watching people in different places, from different races, terrified mind in faraway places.
I'm doing it all alone. I had a
Thank you very much. God bless you all.
supposed to be with me and sort of dipped out. Because you were probably not fit, and but then I just told him if you want to go, I'll totally up to you. And I'll
Thank you again for that beautiful song. So we have another speaker who's going to come up, share a few words. Let's welcome her.
what really struck me was
My name is Tammy, and
I'm from Vancouver. I came out here and I'm here for a family matter. But I heard that they were having the meeting here for missing and murdered women, Indigenous women, and I wanted to come and listen and be around the women here. I would be in Vancouver right now, probably be a part of the missing and murdered Indigenous speaking there too. Not really speaking, like this will be my first time speaking, but I wanted to share a little bit. I was born here in Edmonton, and I left here at a very young age. This is where my journey began, and I ended up moving away from here when I was 9 years old, and moving to Vancouver and being part of the system out there. I was in foster care, and I aged out of foster care. I lived with some very English people. And when I aged out of the foster care system, I had already just had a child, and I ended up on downtown East Side. It was like in 1990. So when I hit the downtown East Side, Hastings Street, I had just finished having a son in care. I was 18, close to 19, and went full-fledged into addiction. I ended up drinking and partying, and I was partying with the woman Sarah Dumfries and the woman who ended up stabbing Picton. And then I also survived many days where they would come into the hotel looking for women to take to the farm, and they would say, "Here, we'll give you $100, and we'll take you to the farm, but we'll give you $100 when you come back." That used to scare me. And I always thought to myself, I'd be like, why would somebody do that? Why would somebody come into these hotels and target these women? You know, and I was young, and all I remember was always just running up those stairs far away from these people that would do that. And I never realized that a lot of the women that left didn't return until years and years later.
Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, and about Quebec.
Yeah, so,
I released that table there.
you know, I think about Sarah, and I think about all the women that I was downtown East Side with, and how many of them went missing. I'm very, very lucky. Very lucky that I made it out of there. I suffered down there for 18 long years. I cried every day. Heartfelt, chest hurting, and just screams of pain and anger and hurt. Every Mother's Day, like clockwork days, my son was adopted when I was in foster care, so I had a lot of heartache. I never grew up with my people. I'm Cree and I'm carrier. I had no traditions, I had no connection. And the only thing that I had was some Christianity. But because I fell in love with Jesus when I was small, just a little one, that was the only thing that kept me going down there. And I would sing. I'd always sing when it got really tough. It was really tough cleaning up. It was really tough getting out of there, and I don't know how, by the grace of God, I got out of there. I'm 5 years clean and sober. I suffered with heroin addiction, cocaine addiction. I went through a lot of places. I'm sure it was hell and back. I have people in my life today. I have my family back in my life. I didn't have my mom, my dad, my aunties, my uncles, my nieces and my nephews. I didn't have any of that, and I didn't even have a First Nations. I didn't, it's funny because, growing up in an English foster home and middle class society, I had no connections to friends that were even First Nations, or even, and when I first had my very first First Nations friends, I was like, this is awesome. I finally have a connection. It was huge for me to have that connection. And from there, it just grew. Each and every day, I kept going forward. It was tough, but I made it. I started getting friends. I started getting my family back. my aunties, my uncles, my mom. I had children. I had 4 children, and I hadn't raised them. I had my first son was adopted, and my second daughter, she was born, and I ended up using and abusing, and addiction is really it overpowered me, and I didn't get to raise my children. But today, I have my children back in my life. They welcomed me back into their life, and it took me a long time to get that trust back, but I got them back in my life. And I have 3 beautiful, 2 grandchildren now. I'm part of ceremony. I'm part of really, really beautiful people. Indian people, First Nations people, all of these Aboriginal, Indigenous people, they're so beautiful. When I first started seeing my people with clear eyes, or just with, without addiction or any of that clouding the way I was seeing things, I just saw beauty. I saw love. I saw people. And that's what kept me going. Every time I looked at my sister or my brother, I just thought, wow, what beautiful, beautiful people we are. And that's what I'm proud of. I'm proud of being part of that. And I'm also, I take part in ceremony now. I have a beautiful elder that helps me, and a beautiful male elder that helps me. I never thought but I would be even able to say that, to have that ability to have people like that in my life, coming from, the system, having nothing, and they say, so I'm really grateful that I get to be here in Edmonton, Alberta, of all places, to be, part of this. We got to stand up and support each other, especially the women, because it's the women that are going to come forward and, bring things back together, back balance, and help keep our men strong, help our men, because it's also our men. We need our men around to support us and keep us up. I feel like that's huge, and it would be amazing. I feel like, and our children. I work with children. I just went to school. I just started to go to school again, and I'm an early childhood educator. I'm working with the little ones, and I love them. They're just amazing, and we need to protect them. We need to keep them, healthy and strong, and give them places and environments that can help them be strong and grow healthy and connected. I believe we should have centers with elders and cookums and mushums, teaching them, and also our young generations and everybody, just helping them grow. Like I said, I'm really grateful that I got to be a part of this today, and I was really shy because I haven't actually spoken in front of people like this. So I'm glad that there's not tons of people here, but I'm here for one of my uncle's funeral, and I just wanted to say thank you for letting me speak and sharing my little bit of story. I mean, there's a lot more that I could probably share, but that's kind of the timeline, how things went for me. And so now I have 5 years clean, and it's all together since I was 9. I've been on this road and this journey. Before that, I used to run barefoot on the grass and in the sweet grass and everything, but I'm glad that I'm back here and able to be share my story. Hi, all my relations.
Thank you very much for sharing that.
Tammy.
Just two quick things I'd like to mention. One of the women that's in the crowd here had to come up and briefly asked me to share some words on her behalf. And what she said to me was that it was important to remember that our women and our girls, that we talk to them. That we talk to them when they're out there.
Is it what you want to,
and we talk to them before they go out there. To let them know that
organizing a ceremony,
whenever they're out there, that they always
during ceremony, that's when our
let somebody know where they are or who they're with.
We love one another.
You know, phone somebody, send a message on Facebook or text message, and let somebody know. Tell them to let somebody know where they are and who they're with. That is so very important.
Honoring our stolen
because
brothers and sisters.
if we don't know, nobody knows.
The fact, for example,
So
I was
it's important
asking the
to
same
share
question
that,
to Adam. The fact that he,
you know,
by himself, will cross the country
for
by foot
our
walking.
brothers and our sisters, our
the
young
fact that you are
girls.
organizing
Now,
something like that
in this
yourself,
day and age,
isn't it
with
fine
all the
that you
stuff
don't
that's happening,
expect so much from
the drugs that are
governments and the
taking over people's lives, and our young ones that are getting out there and being involved and not making the best choices, but they're still human beings and we still need to protect them.
And we are the people.
And so it's important to share that with your loved ones, that no matter where they are, where they go, always remind them to let you know where they are and who they're with.
Well, we are the village.
So with that said, I also want to, we found an earring here.
Our DNA will be blowing in the wind. Our DNA will be blowing in the wind. With those missing women. That's for all the missing women in Canada.